Welcome, everybody, uh, uh, to the Mount Escutney School District annual meeting. This is an informational meeting about our annual budget and the articles that we have warned, and also an explanation of the ballot, which you'll be voting on hopefully on Tuesday. Before we begin, I'd like to introduce our moderator, Justin Burrows. We have the same last name. I'd like to just introduce a few different little points, housekeeping points about being on a remote meeting. One is please remain muted until unless you have a question. If you have a question, raise your hand using the little hand function, which is in the center of the bottom of the screen, and you'll have your hand will go up like this, and I'll hear a bloop. And when you're called upon, please unmute yourself, ask your question, and then lower your hand so that we don't get confused and call on you again. Everybody will have the opportunity to speak at least once on a question, but you won't have the opportunity to speak 3 or 4 times. You might be able to speak a couple of times, but not 3 or 4 times on each question. And am I forgetting anything else? The chat function has been disabled for this meeting, so if you have any questions, please raise your hand and ask it. And I think that's about it. Justin, take it away.
Okay. So I'd like to call the meeting of the Mount Escutney School District to order. And I read the first thing here, right? So the legal voters of the Mount Escutney School District are hereby notified and warned to meet virtually on Thursday, February 24th, 2022 at 7 p.m. to transact the following business that does not involve voting by Australian ballot. Such meeting shall be adjourned to Tuesday, March 1st, 2022 in the forenoon at the Windsor Municipal Building on Union Street and the Story Memorial Hall, West Windsor, Vermont, to transact any business involving voting by Australian ballot. So now I'm going to read the articles and then pause after the article if anybody has a question about that, and we can address them then. All right, so here we go. Article 1, to appoint a moderator, clerk, and treasurer for the ensuing year. Does anybody have a question about Article 1? All right. Yes. I believe Amy raised her hand first.
Right. It's not so much a question as a comment. If we were voting, if we were holding this meeting in person, we would be appointing from the floor for these people, for the moderator, clerk, and treasurer. However, because this is a full virtual meeting, it will be done by Australian ballot. And these, because no one had put their name in to be on the ballot, these are write-in.
Elizabeth, your hand was raised.
Yes, I just wanted to acknowledge that I forgot something when I was setting out the ground rules for being in a remote meeting, and that is we have Amy Yates acting as our clerk this evening, and she's keeping notes for us. But to do that, it would be a lot easier for everybody if you say your name before you and introduce yourself so that she can record who's asking the question. Thank you very much.
Justin, may I speak one more time? This is Amy.
Technically, Adam gets to speak now.
Okay. I was just going to let Amy Yates know that it was Amy McMullen and I'm on the
Ah,
board.
all right, retroactively.
Yeah, and that is all.
Adam.
Okay. I show up as Adam, but obviously I'm not Adam. It's Mary Ann Boyce. I'm from West Windsor, and I I wondered who was running, and I know a number. I was wondering who was running, and a number of people that I've run into didn't know who to vote for or even who to write in. So how is that being resolved? Thank you.
Do any of the board want to address that? Amy?
Hi, Amy McMillan again. So for when you see your ballot, Article 1, or for moderator, clerk, and treasurer, those will be individual items and they are write-in. So if there is someone that you are aware of who would be interested in filling any of those positions, you would write their name in. For the school district directors, there are 2 people running. There's Bill Yates from West Windsor. His name does not appear on the ballot, but he is running a write-in campaign. And for Windsor, you will see the name of Davis McGraw, and his name is on the ballot. But this is also an item on the warning that Justine will read off, and that will be an opportunity for people to introduce themselves if they like, and to say why they want to run for the board. So thank you.
Dr. Baker?
Sorry about that. You would think I'd know how to use this by now. I have a question for Amy McMullen, but I'll go through you, Justin. Is a certain number of votes required for a write-in candidate to be elected, or if a person gets 1 write-in vote and there's nobody else who gets written in, are they automatically elected? Do we know the answer to that question?
Amy, do you have an answer for Dr. Baker's question?
I do have an answer. If we were 1 town, it would be 30 names. Because we are 2 towns, it is 60 names. And if those 60 names, if one person does not receive 60 write-ins, then the board will appoint.
Yeah.
Following reorganization.
Yeah, thank you, Amy. And I'm glad you clarified, because there is a mechanism, my understanding, and Amy clarified that if we don't get enough write-in votes, then the board does have the authority to appoint a clerk, a treasurer, and a moderator. That's it for me.
Okay, barring any other questions, I'm going to move on to Article 2. Article 2, to act on the reports of the school district officers for the past year by Australian ballot. Are there any questions about Article 2? All right, hearing none, I'm going to move on. Article 3, to see if the Mount Ascutney School District will vote to pay taxes to the town treasurer, such taxes to be collected on the same schedule voted at the town meeting by Australian ballot. Are there any questions for Article 3? Hearing none, I'm going to move on to Article 4. Article 4, to elect the school directors for the ensuing term by Australian ballot. Windsor residents at the Windsor Municipal Building on March 1, 2022 from 9 a.m. and close at 7 p.m. West Windsor residents at Story Memorial Hall on March 1, 2022 from 9 a.m. and close at 7 p.m. Are there any questions on Article 4? Dr. Baker.
Sometimes at this point, Justin, if there is anybody attending this informational meeting that is running for the school board, the moderator will sometimes ask them to introduce themselves and to, just one or two sentences and let people know they are running. That's up to you if you want to do that, but I've seen that done many times.
Why, I think we have two, don't we?
Yes, we do that I hear.
All right. Well, I believe it is Mrs. Yates and Davis. Excuse me, McGraw. Sorry, the double thing. Mr. McGraw and Yates. Bill, Davis, do either of you want to make a few comments? Introduce yourself.
Sure, I don't mind. My name is Bill Yates. I am running for school board, but didn't have the organizational skills, I guess, to get my name on the ballot in time. So I am running a write-in campaign. I am running for the school board because, well, I have almost 2 master's degrees in education, just one, and grew up in Windsor and now live in West Windsor. And I feel the Ascutney School District has the potential to be a outstanding school district. I believe it is a good school district at this point, and I would like to work towards making it the most celebrated school district in the state of Vermont.
Thank you, Mr. Yates. Mr. McGraw, would you care to make a comment? An introduction?
Sure. Yeah. It's a hard statement to follow up, Bill, but I'm Davis McGraw. I live in Windsor, Vermont. I grew up in Windsor, and I don't have a master's degree in education, but I should have an MBA by about this time next year, if all things go according to plan. I am running for school board because I went to school in Windsor through 8th grade, and I remember some of my best experiences as a student and as a youth in this community were the result of adults in the community making the time and effort to facilitate those experiences. And I understand, from my own background, working in as a behaviorist and in special education, and currently in simulation-based education up at the hospital. It takes time, and it takes effort, and it takes a team effort to make those opportunities happen. And it can be daunting to be on a team with so many talented and brilliant folks, but I relish the opportunity, and I hope you'll give me your vote on this coming Tuesday. Thanks.
All right. Are there any other comments? Otherwise, I'll move on to Article 5. Yes, Ms. Pedrick.
I just wanted to add that Davis has been on our board. He was appointed, so he's been working with the board, so we all very much support him.
Thanks, Nancy. And Bill's been around for a while too.
That's so true. All right. Any other comments? Then I'm going to move on to Article 5. Although before I start, Dr. Baker, is the Article 5 as presented here, as opposed to the warning? Which one should I read?
No, read the one that's on that official warning, the one you've got printed.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's got the extra. Good. I just wanted to check.
Yeah, it's got the extra amounts, and yeah.
Yes. All right. Article 5, to establish salaries for school directors. School board chair, $1,250 per year, and school board members, $1,000 per year by Australian ballot. Are there any comments or questions? Hearing none, I'm going to move on to Article 6. Article 6, to see if the Mount Ascutney School District will vote to authorize the Board of School Directors to borrow money in anticipation of taxes to meet the requirements of the Mount Ascutney School District for the ensuing year, and to authorize the execution and delivery of notes or orders to the Mount Ascutney School District by Australian ballot. Are there any questions or comments? Hearing none, I'm going to move on to Article 7. Article 7, shall the voters of the Mount Ascutney School District authorize the school board to apply $624,526 of the fiscal year 21 surplus to the Capital Reserve Fund by Australian ballot? Are there any questions or comments? Okay. So now I'm going to move on to Article 8. Article 8. Shall the voters of the Mount Ascutney School District approve the school board to expend $13,193,639, which is the amount the school board has determined to be necessary for the ensuing fiscal year. It is estimated that this proposed budget, if approved, will result in education spending of $17,259.25 per equalized pupil. This projected spending per equalized pupil is 7.62% higher than the spending for the current year by Australian ballot. All right. I'm trying to, I heard a bleep, but a bump, but are there any comments? Okay, I see Davis McGraw.
Yep. Yeah, this is Davis. I'm just noticing, I don't think the PowerPoint moved forward. I'm still seeing up to 7.
Yeah, I'll work to fix that. It's a little off.
Okay. Yeah, no worries. Just noting that. Thanks.
All right. Dr. Baker.
Yeah, I think, Justin, at this point, I'll point out the fact that the school district board of directors and the administrators of the Mount Ascutney School District do have a PowerPoint presentation to give some more information and background on that $13,192,639. So I also see another hand, but when they're done asking those initial questions, if we could allow that presentation, it would be great.
Mrs. Lay, I see your hand. You might be muted. Well, I see Linda Lay has her hand up, but I'll wait and shall we continue then? Oh, she put her hand up. There we go. Okay. Are there? Okay. So then, I believe then Jennifer, Kate, and Colleen and Elizabeth are going to present some information to clarify this. Is this correct?
Correct.
All right. So which of you are starting out?
I'm going to start, Justin. This is Colleen DeChamp. I'm one of the principals at Windsor School, one of the administrators of Mount Ascutney School District, and thank you all for being here tonight. The next few slides, we are going to share with you about our budget and how it aligns to our strategic plan, our continuous improvement plan, and the educational quality standards. A lot of time and care went into making our budget with our team and discussing it with our school board and making sure that we were all in alignment with our goals. You can go to the next slide. Our next 3 slides are a summary of our goals of our strategic plan. And the first goal is student success and engagement. And these items are the pieces that are extremely important to us that we request funding for in our budget for student success and engagement. Leader in Me is a program that helps every one of our students in our SU to become the leaders and lead their learning. We have begun working this year with our consultants on Leader in Me initiatives. Comprehensive assessment plan. We want to make sure we have a comprehensive assessment plan to account for how our students are doing. Recently, we've just done a February data dive in all of our schools to look at the data we are receiving from the local assessments and our Track My Progress assessments and the different assessments we have here that we need to help move our students forward. We are working with a middle school team led by Dr. Baker in the development of this middle school model. And we are working to help our 6th through 8th graders, our adolescents in our communities, to have everything that all of our students have and have a dedicated staff and resources for this age group. More engagement is co-teaching. We also learned a lot in our first year of the pandemic, in our first full school year, where we had to work together for safety of not spreading COVID-19, but working together, and co-teaching was a big part of that. Interdisciplinary approach to teaching and learning. We want to make sure we are across all disciplines, working to make our learning relevant to our students and connecting their classes and working in teams with these approaches so students understand how their core subjects and their fine arts and their extracurricular subjects fit together. Student-driven learning, that also comes along with the Leader in Me, helping our students to lead their learning, finding their flexible paths with our flexible pathways, finding their passion projects and the things that our students are driven by, and helping them with counseling and resources to do things like extended learning opportunities, internships, mentorships. Universal design for learning and implementation is, we want this universal design at the most basic level for all of our students. And we have different levels of supports with our multi-tiered systems of supports, 504 plans, IEPs, and working at the universal level, making sure everyone gets what they need to begin for student success and engagement. Goal 2 is building the culture for our schools and student wellness. One of those items are student advisory boards and council. These are our students leading these programs. They are advocating for their own student wellness and talking with their advisors to help make their schools better, falling right in line with our Leader in Me program. Diversity and equity work, we've been working as an SU with our school board, with our community members, and across the whole SU with diversity and equity work with experts in the field to move our school forward in making our schools a diverse, welcoming culture. Restorative approaches. These are things we've been doing for quite some time in our schools, and that's trauma-informed practices, collaborative problem solving, and reflective practices. These are key for student wellness. We want this to be the culture that we want to restore and problem solve and work things out with our students, our staff, our communities, help our students understand good collaborative problem solving. multi-tiered systems of support. I mentioned a little bit, and that is we have our universal levels of instruction that are for all students. We have our multi-tiered systems that we keep adding and keep looking and following and making sure all of our students have what they need. And some students move to different tiers where they need more supports. Our health and wellness team has been together for at least 6 years, and that is a big part initiated by our school nurses, community members who are keeping student wellness, staff wellness, and community in their thoughts when they are working on whole school, whole community, whole child initiatives. Mental health services, we contract out. We have amazing HCRS partners in our schools. And we have the We Are Hope team who is in our schools who coach our students on topics of anxiety. And we have great school counselors. Our child nutrition at no cost to families is a part of our school nutrition program, school food services program, led by Craig Locarno in our SU. And that is growing stronger every day. And students are enjoying a lot of variety, a lot of local food, and a lot of choice in their food, and including our parents, and helping them to know about some programs we have, such as in our SU, such as drive through dinner, community dinners, and the breakfast program, and our free lunch program. School schedule is also something we work with in all of our schools to make sure our school schedule is promoting the best possible day for our students, sees the pieces that students need for their outdoor activity, their social emotional learning, their time of day for our students of different ages, thinking about young children, adolescents, and our older teens in the high school. Information and communication, our third goal, is us engaging the community, and how we do this is through our weekly updates and newsletters in our schools, in our SU, in our central office, our website and social media. We have the most amazing IT team who helps all of our administrators and Dr. Baker get all of our messages out, as well as our school board. The data dashboard coming soon. Our community events that we share on all of our websites and our different ways of communicating. And our Leader in Me, we will also be having down the road our students sharing and communicating, because the goal is to have the students be our leaders and share the information. And some of our students are already doing that in our buildings. So those are our 3 goals. I'm going to pass it on to Jen.
All right, and I'm going to share a little bit about what the research is saying that coincides with what we are asking for. We do know that times are changing, and the more information we have that recognizes what is needed and necessary and the complexity of it, I think is important to highlight. So in the research that's specifically talking about how we are going to be able to come out of this pandemic with the strength we need to move forward in not just manageable ways, but really to move forward in proactive and energizing and engaging ways. There's 10 areas of these. Some of these are more specific to the work that we are doing here. And so out of those 10 areas, we are going to talk about assessing what students need. And when we talk about that, we're really thinking about things like, schools needing to take stock of all of their students' experiences and needs as we build safe and welcoming communities, both in person and, if we ever need to, again, virtually. Ensure that schools have the time and tools to take stock of children's overall needs, learning what students and staff have been experiencing to ensure social and emotional supports, identify and leverage community partners and resources to support all students across in and out of school settings. Those of you who have been working with us for a while recognize that we're already pretty well into a lot of this work. Included in assessing what students' needs is prioritizing assessments that illuminate student growth and learning rather than the global level of comparison. Emphasizing what we call authentic diagnostic learning, informative assessments, which is listening to what's given to you immediately and giving immediate response to the child to gauge where they are and what their next step is going to be the very next time they work on the same type of problem or learning experience, rather than decontextualizing what we call summative assessments, which are often what we think of these larger state-run assessments, for example. Provide access to digital assessment tools, support locally relevant assessments connected to the curriculum, the environment, and instructional resources, and avoid over-testing by making use of the expertise, tools, and assessment data that is already available. Additionally, we want to support acceleration of learning, not just remediation. And in fact, the research shows pretty significantly that grade retention and downtracking actually undermine achievement. So formative assessments that include actionable feedback immediately, applied practice and revision of work can more rapidly improve learning, especially when used with tailored acceleration strategies. This fits right into our MTSS process. When we think about the universal level as well as the different levels of tiers, the level 2 and level 3 of interventions. This personalized instruction is best informed by the use of high quality performance tasks. This makes it so it's much more complex to develop these assessments, because when you're talking about assessing what a kid knows about where they are, what they're actually experiencing, it has to be much more individualized, and you can't just buy it at a store. So we want to invest in teachers' knowledge and skills for formative assessment, support ongoing and embedded teacher professional learning for formative assessments, build capacity for meaningful use of existing assessments, move towards more coherent systems of assessments of, for, and as learning. So we can actually think differently about assessment, not just saying that, let's see what you do know, but when we assess, we're actually saying what's important, and that actually can impact what people learn and pay attention to in the process of filtering out what is not so important. Formative and summative assessment should represent ambitious learning goals and be coherently linked through a well-articulated model of learning that incorporates learning progressions along with intermediate stages and instructional needs for reaching these goals. Sounds like a lot. We're asking a lot from our staff. We want to ensure the supports for social and emotional learning. We've talked about this for years now. It is essential that we are feeling safe socially and emotionally so that we can access what we call the smart part of our brain. We want to implement a comprehensive system of supports here, a systemic approach of promoting children's social, emotional, and academic well-being, including counseling and additional behavioral, mental health, and trauma supports. We want to ensure opportunities for explicit teaching of social and emotional skills at every level, locating a place in the curriculum and school day in which students and educators can develop and practice key skills and competencies, including things like morning meetings and advisories, developing and adopting an evidence-based SEL programs, and using strategies for managing stress. Infuse social emotional learning into instruction in all classes, opportunities to develop social emotional learning skills throughout the school day, leverage readily available curriculum resources that include embedded social emotional learning, and provide guidance and training to help educators integrate this work into their daily work. Instituting restorative practices is another big key item. Social emotional programs cannot enable meaningful long-term growth for students in environments that are otherwise authoritarian, punitive, and exclusionary rather than educative and inclusive. The research bears this out for the last 50 years. It is pretty clear, and yet we're still struggling with the punitive, exclusionary practices. Instilling more educative and inclusive environments can be accomplished by ending zero-tolerance policies, exclusionary discipline, and adopting equity-oriented restorative practices in their place. We want to enact policies and practices that enable social emotional learning and restorative practices, which our school board and administrative team and staff have done a great job over the last few years, really moving in this direction and rethinking our practices and policies. We want to redesign school for stronger relationships. So research here shows that school designs that support caring and continuity in student-teacher relationships are more able to address trauma and strengthen achievement than traditional factory model schools. In this, we want to create structures that foster health and safety, as well as the personalization and trust among children and staff. We want to strengthen partnerships with families. We want to cultivate supportive environments filled with emotional safety and belonging. One of the three major components of a child becoming a self-guided person is that they feel that they belong. There are two other components, a sense of competence, and the other one is a sense of choice, which all of those we are trying to address in the work that we're asking you to support. You additionally want to cultivate supportive environments filled with emotional and safety belonging. When it comes to emphasizing authentic, cultural responsive learning, we want to acknowledge that schools that have successfully motivated students to engage in learning, even when schooling has been disrupted, have done so through connecting with real-world applications and human interaction. So we want to offer guidance for how schools can restart by focusing on authentic learning and assessment strategies. We've been working hard on this so far, and I think there's a great deal of research that is supporting this work. Provide curriculum tools and professional learning for educators to support more authentic learning and assessment. We want to ensure that authentic learning is also culturally connected and culturally sustaining. We have great partnerships within our community that are really helping both of our school buildings thrive, and that is no accident. They care deeply about our students and about their community, and they recognize the intertwined relationship between the school and the community. We also want to build capacity for inclusive, identity-safe, and culturally responsive practices, and redesign assessments to emphasize applied learning and complex problem solving. Additionally, the research says providing expanded learning time is central to this, particularly those who have learning differences, those who may be disconnected for various reasons, often social emotional things can disconnect, socioeconomic things can disconnect us, English language learning, all of these things can pull us away from being a part of the group in the full capacity. And so we need to provide additional support for expanded learning. This can include high quality small group and one-to-one work within the school day, as well as beyond the school day. Expand high quality after school programs. One of the key components of closing the gaps between the socioeconomic status across the board is this ability to provide additional after school time, as well as creating high quality summer programs. We did a great job last year, I think, as an entire supervisory union, pulling together a summer program that really got us on the right track. We also want to expand the reach and duration of early learning programs. So really thinking about our pre-K programs, as well as even the before 3-year-olds, how do we engage those families and support those kids? And as a school board is responsible for working and enacting policies and access funding to support expanded learning time. Establishing community schools and wraparound supports. There's some great legislation right now about community schools in the state of Vermont. In essence, community schools and wraparound supports really talk about a lot of the work that we have already started in engaging with our partnerships that come into the schools, like HCRS, We Are Hope. We work very closely with additional groups, with the county mentors, and we work with the hospital. And all of these help to support well-designed community schools. We also want to enlist regional agencies that can provide technical assistance and help coordinate local services, create reliable funding streams to support community school needs, and create children cabinets at the federal, state, and county level. I would love to talk more if anybody's interested in talking about children's cabinets at some point. Obviously, now is not the time. Prepare educators for reinventing school. Transform educator learning opportunities to match current needs. We want to support mentoring new teachers, including teachers in new roles. We want to create collaboration time, which last year we had great support in doing that work. Always take the long view. We want to plan ahead to ensure that as resources come back into the system, they are spent to leverage greater teaching expertise. So everything described here requires knowledgeable, skilled, dedicated educators. And there's no way to get that kind of teaching, no other way to get the kind of teaching we need. While the immediate needs of the communities will create major pressures on budgets, it is important for policymakers to recognize that the work that we are doing is essential to recruit, develop, and retain strong educator workforce so that the aspirations for education for our children can be realized. The incentives needed to accomplish this reside at the federal, state, and local levels to ensure that educators are prepared for the daunting work that they undertake. And to that end, we have had incredible support so far from our communities, from our school board policymakers, and at the state level. Not to mention the incredible gift that our teachers give us day in and day out in trying to make this work. So on my final note, I'm going to say that now is the time that we need to redefine curriculum, instruction, assessment, and accountability. We need to keep in mind the work that we are doing when it comes to making sure we respect how the brain develops and how the brain learns, in how we engage and how we respond to things that aren't happening the way that we typically would expect them to. Given the shifts in schooling that will continue to occur, I believe that this is the time to reinvent these practices so that teaching is guided by the science of learning and supported through high quality opportunities for authentic learning and assessment so that we can support our students, our staff, our communities, our parents in meaningful, relevant, and complex learning experiences in the classroom, virtually, and beyond. So we have been through a bit of a journey here. So that's the science behind it. I want to talk a little bit about the journey that we've been on, which is before the pandemic, we have done a lot of work across the supervisory union, really understanding and trying to make sense of what science is telling us about how kids learn, what works, and what that means to work, and what doesn't work and why it doesn't work. And at this point, there is a wealth of research that is pretty clear. And we've done some great investment in really trying to meet the child where the child is, central to our success with the children where they are. This is labor intensive, this is staff intensive, this is time intensive. We believe that the investments that we've already made have actually provided us with a much smoother road than a lot of our counterparts across the state, as well as around the country. And people that I've talked to really having to stop and shift the way they were doing things to honor the social, emotional, developmental needs of our children. Early on during remote learning, we partnered with parents. In some cases, we were able to be much more hands-on, able to make connections with parents and families in ways that we hadn't before. During the pandemic, at the beginning of it, it clearly put a lot of stressors on everybody. I think parents probably, for the most part, had the most intense pressures put on them while they're trying to navigate the lives that they had already planned out, amidst trying to navigate now their students' learning and all that that entails. It's put incredible pressure on staff to come up with new ways to think about teaching. It also puts incredible pressure on staff to look at the developmental place of our students, because they have grown very differently over the course of the last couple of years. As we are evolving, one of the things I want us to pay a lot of attention to is I think we often use the language of learning lost and what we have to do to recover. I want to celebrate what we are doing, because children are learning. They are learning a lot. And some of the things that they are really learning happen to line up quite well with our strategic plan that was created by the entire community, which is a sense of community, which is anchored in empathy, our ability to understand another person's perspective and take that into account as we move forward. Perseverance and resilience. I'll tell you, this has been a really tough year. Our teachers have shown amazing resilience through this. Our students have shown a great deal of resilience through this process. And that's not something you're born with, it's something you practice. The research shows that you practice it by being surrounded by an incredible community of supports. We are constantly rethinking how we're doing things with critical thinking, trying our best to optimize communication, not over communicating, but also not under communicating. And through it all, keeping in mind that we are here for the kids and we are going to do our best to try and understand what's going on for them so that we can help move them forward. So one of the things that we are really coming to is we have to focus on what's important. If everything's important, then nothing's important. So as we move forward, we are really trying to focus on certain things and let other things drop off. And we know that right now, in the middle of this pandemic, probably the most important thing we can do is make sure we all stay connected and develop a sense of belonging and a sense of community. So our next steps, where we need to go, we need to close some gaps. And that's always the case in education. I think it's probably the most important thing we do in education, whether it was pre-pandemic or post-pandemic. And what we are going to do, what we plan to do with our budget proposal, is continue building on the foundation that we've already started. And we believe that we are actually ahead of the curve in a lot of ways, and find new opportunities. This year has certainly provided, the last couple of years, have provided a lot of great, rich communication that tells us that if we stop and think outside the box, we actually have remarkable opportunities ahead of us. So our budget goals are to meet the needs of diverse students through our flexible approaches. We want to meet curriculum expectations. There's a whole lot that comes down from the state that we are required to do. We want to offer engaging experiences, and this is really that hands-on approach that requires not just teachers, but partnerships with our community members. We want to continue to invest in the project-based, place-based, and interdisciplinary work that we've already started, and continue to develop strong community through supporting our social emotional needs of our students. So in our budget proposal, that's pretty blank. Let me see if I can find that someplace else. Let's see. So in our budget proposal, we are actually asking for some significant changes as we're trying to build the capacity for our community. At Windsor specifically, we're looking to increase our social emotional interventionist to 1 additional full-time intervention, so that there's 1 at the elementary, 1 at the middle, and 1 at the high school level. This is to help provide and support the needs of each of those unique groups of kids while supporting specialists in those areas. We're looking to increase at Windsor the general education support staff in the K-1 class by 4 staff members. We are looking to increase the counseling at Windsor to specifically have a middle school counselor on board so that they can meet that unique adolescent age range and be available for those kids at an incredibly difficult time in their lives. We are looking to also put in a full-time academic interventionist for kindergarten through 3rd grade. At Albert Bridge, we're trying to put back in the budget from fiscal year 20 a 0.4 multi-age academic teacher to support 2 multi-age classes. We are looking to increase the librarian time from 10 hours to a 0.4 position. We are looking to increase art from a 0.2 to a 0.4 position to support the interdisciplinary work. And across the district, we're looking for a social worker / homeschool coordinator, as well as a BCBA. Let me see if that works. Maybe I'm going to have to stop presenting for a sec. Let me try this again. Let's see. So bear with me. We have stalled, but I'll get it back up, I think. Maybe I'll try from this one. Here. Okay, let's see if that works. Okay, maybe that works. Okay, and then we are still continuing to think about ways to share the loads that we have, the talent that we have, and I think as more things settle and we get appropriate staffing in both buildings, we'll be able to do a lot more collaborative work across the district and more sharing. Right now, it's challenging, clearly, because we are short-staffed in both buildings, and that puts pressure on people to be in the place where they're most effective, which is the place where they have the strongest relationship. Moving forward, we're looking to share resources and data discussions with our MTSS team, including intervention work. We're looking to continue to develop our social emotional teams and our BCBAs so that we can think a little bit more about what is working, what isn't working, and give some real time for those staff members to share their particular talents across those schools. And we're looking to share the homeschool coordinator / social worker. And let's see, Elizabeth, I think I'm passing it off to you and then off to Kate.
Yeah, and Jen, you might want to hit slideshow too, so that slide gets a little bit bigger. Is that possible? Yeah, that's better. Yep, perfect.
Colleen, you had a comment? Colleen, you might be muted.
Sorry. I was wondering if Jen can just go back one slide so we can just see the slide that was blank for a few minutes. If it will come up.
Yeah, that's the overview of the capacity building. Yep. Good suggestion, Colleen. Catch a breath. Now the numbers.
No, go back. You were transfixed by my slide sliding in.
There you go.
Okay. I'd like us to just stop for a minute. This has been a lot to take in so far, but for those of you who have not been with us for the last 8 years or have not been with us for the last several years that we've been one district, just take a moment to consider the amount of hard work that has already been done on supporting our students in their ability to bring their whole selves to the class. And that's been done through extraordinary efforts on the parts of all of our administrators, all of our teachers. And Jennifer talked about the fact that we'd already laid the groundwork, but that work started 8 years ago. And it hasn't been easy, but we were already, it's not to say that our school district has come through this pandemic unscathed. We haven't, but having put the pieces into place that we did, the fact that we did Portrait of a Graduate at the hands of the school educational community and the community, picking what wound up being the perfect set of priorities for a strategic plan that further laid the groundwork for us to be able to get through the pandemic together. It's remarkable, and it's not luck. It's through talent and it's through exceptional work. And, in certain areas, genius. And on top of that, just take a second. Everybody just take a moment and think about how hard our teachers, our staff, our principals, our administrators have worked under extreme duress in the last year, and how they haven't just been treading water, they have been pulling us forward. And the fact that this has all continued to move in the way that it has. I'd like to make a plug for all of us to put our faith in these people who have shown that they're worthy of it. So thank you all. And I guess now, after taking a second, let's move on to the numbers. And now the numbers.
Thanks. So our first slide here, I'm gonna,
Wait,
these are, yep.
Wait, Kate, could you please introduce yourself?
Oh, sorry. I'm Kate Ryan. I live in Windsor, send my kids to Windsor, and I'm one of the principals in Mount Scottney School District located at Windsor. I'm gonna take you through the numbers, which are posted in the annual report, and support the vision that Jennifer and Elizabeth and Colleen set forth. If you have any questions along the way, our business manager is also online to help. So our first two slides kind of go together. There are wages and benefits. One part that I saw that we didn't go deeply into while we were talking is that we are working as an SU to build a strong middle school model. That is particularly important to our district because we have that pre-K 12 model. Our 6, 7, 8 kind of get lost in the shuffle. And our 7, 8 in particular have a day that looks very different than the 7, 8 at the other schools. And we are committed to making our 6, 7, 8 the best it can be in meeting those kids where they're at, which is why we're looking for that additional school counselor and that additional administrator, one who we're hoping has an enthusiasm and experience in that middle school to help build that program that we, Dr. Baker has led a team. Dr. Baker, how many people were on that team? A lot.
Yeah, I'd say there's probably about 27, 28 people.
Of all our teachers in the SU. So that is speaking to why our wages and benefits are up this year. Contracted services. This is our support of our mental health. We contract out to We Are Hope, which is like life coaches for kids. They've been very instrumental in our building this year. It's been wonderful to have them. And our HRS services, which provide clinicians to each building. Maintenance and repair is typical. We have no major projects on the horizon this year, so we're maintaining that. Transportation, our transportation is up because we are now busing Albert Bridge kids as well through to Windsor School. This is standard communication, insurance, and postage. We're pretty level there. Our tuition, this is this goes back to that history Jen was talking about. I believe that when we joined, that is what made our tuition rates drop. And we're still seeing the benefits of that. Travel, one great thing that came out of the pandemic is we learned how to bring a lot to our buildings without traveling all over the place. When even this year, we've brought back college tours, we've done virtual visits, and we've moved some of that funding into our guidance department. Assessments, this can be found in our annual report, and it'll come up later in a slide about how each district was charged our assessments that go through the SU, such as special education and things like that. Books and supplies we're maintaining. This one speaks for itself. Equipment, I'm gonna turn this one over to Ed or David. This is, I would believe this is something out of Jim Taft's and the maintenance.
Yeah, Ed, do you want to take that one?
So what you're asking is why is equipment up?
Yeah, correct.
Yes.
It might have to do with the cafeteria renovation for one.
You're kind of catching me cold, but let me see what I can figure out here. Thank you.
Yeah,
Sorry.
we can go back to that. I'm pretty sure that what we decided to do is put that cafeteria renovation, which did include some furniture and equipment, into the actual operating budget. So I really think that's what's driving it. But if Ed finds anything else, we can go back to it.
Our dues and fees is standard. And our debt services is paying off the debt from the renovations at Albert Bridge. I think, Jennifer, you said, what year were those in?
Long time ago?
Yep.
I think it's 2004.
Yep. These are our district estimates. Oh, hand raised.
Sparrows?
Never mind. Sorry.
Mom. Are your boys coming home?
No, I'm talking right now. Sorry, I had set her up with headphones, so she totally didn't even realize that I was in a meeting because she still had the headphones on. These are our total assessments by district, which is what comes out of, we give back to the SU. And I think these are our totals. So our budget is up, but like I said, we are adding staff to help create our vision. Another thing that I wanted to mention is that in the Windsor building, in addition, we are asking for support staff at our lower grade level, K through 4, which is something all the other schools had that we hadn't had, and our teachers have been asking for. And we think having the people kind of on the ground running will be the best use of our money.
Yeah, and let me just also say, Kate, this is Dr. Baker, that one of the things that we need to realize is when I've been here 10 years. I know it probably feels to some of you like 20, but I've been here only 10 years. But when I arrived 10 years ago, we had just over 500 kids, little around 525. I know years ago there were much more than that. I mean, I think sometimes in the 700s. But over the last 10 years, Windsor has actually been growing in population. So next year we're anticipating. Right now we're at somewhere between 575 and 580. We anticipate we could be as high as 600 next year. So I don't know whether the enrollment numbers come up a little bit later on, but again, building capacity to serve that many kids, and also trying to meet all those individual needs that Jennifer and Kate and Colleen were talking about. And it's also the wonderful efforts of the merger of both communities, because now over the last 3 years we've had all of the West Windsor kids who graduate come to Windsor, so that's increasing those numbers. But we're also finding people moving into our town. Windsor is appearing to be an attractive place to live and to find affordable housing and to have great recreation programs and great school programs. So I think we're going to continue to see our numbers go up, and that's not the pattern in every single town in Vermont.
No, the other thing that's been consistent this year is our numbers have been steady. I think at our lowest point, they were 568, and they were up to 576 today. That's been a change since I first came here about 15 years ago, where we had a more transient population, which is kind of common when you live on the border between New Hampshire. But our numbers have been very consistent at 568 and above all year. So I am anticipating that we will hit 600 next year, which is exciting. So here are the tax rates, and you can see in West Windsor, it makes for a 3-cent difference, and in Windsor, a 2-cent difference.
Oh, this is my slide.
Yep.
Okay. So this year we also have a budget surplus of $1.249 million. And that is in part because of the tuition savings that we just mentioned, which we said we would reinvest to a large degree. It's also because, Ed, did you have something you wanted to say?
No.
Okay. It's also because we had a budget surplus in the last year, and it's also because we haven't spent a whole lot because we've been under a pandemic. So we have proposed as one of the ways to mitigate the tax increase is to split the budget surplus in half and send $624,000 or $526,000 back to taxpayers. It's something that you'll have to vote upon on Tuesday, but doing so will reduce the new tax to 0.291 cents per $100 in West Windsor and 0.161 cents in Windsor.
Ms. McMullen.
Thank you. Just a correction or clarification.
Clarification.
Sorry, I'll turn my camera on now. When people vote, what they'll be voting for is the amount that's going to go into capital reserve.
Right. Sorry. Thank you for that, Amy.
Yeah, you're welcome. When people vote on the budget article, when they vote to approve our budget,
yeah, right. Yep.
That is when they will be accepting that 624,526 going to relieve taxes. So
right. So what we did was we took the $1.249 million and we split it in half, and we have proposed that we send half of that, which is $624,526 to capital reserve, and half of it keep as a right, and then half of it be applied towards the tax. So that is a part of. I see you unmuting, David Baker.
I wanted to let you know that is correct. What you just said is
okay.
Is correct. And the mathematics of this, if you wanted to look at a house, say, valuing $300,000, if that's the value of your house, that 0.0291 rounded off to 0.03, or just if you want to go to thousands, you just move that decimal point 3 places. Everybody remembers their math. So it's about $30 per 100,000. So if you have a $300,000 house, taxes would go up about $90. And in West Windsor, again, you move that, it's almost 2 cents, but let's say 16, right? So then you would just do the math on that, and it would be, if you had a $300,000 house, in Windsor, then it would be $58 increase. So you can do the math per thousand if you look at that. But that is because, as Elizabeth said, the board decided to roll half of that surplus back into tax relief. And you'll see that when you vote for Article. You won't see it, but that's what you'll be doing if you vote yes on Article 8.
And the other thing that wasn't mentioned in the budget slides, and it shouldn't be because it's not part of the budget, but just for clarification's sake, part of our tax rate is the local CLA rating. That's the common level of appraisal rating. And that has to do with the estimated value of a home compared to the fair market value of a home. And the state does some rigmarole and comes up with, Amy has a really great and eloquent explanation for it, but there's a formula that compares the estimated market value with the current value, and it's done over a 3-year rolling average. And our taxes are adjusted according to this. And in West Windsor, we had a very unfavorable common level of appraisal rate at 88.95%, which meant that our taxes are higher as a result to make up for some of that difference between the common market value and the actual value. And in Windsor, the value was 98.67%, a little bit closer to 100%, which is what, where it's balanced. But I just wanted to add that in there. Okay. So yes.
And I just want to do a quick thank you to all the school board members, our community and families. This has been a really trying couple of years, and we could not have done it without you. Additionally, our teachers have done heroic things through really tough times, and they keep showing up every day. And that's a real testament to their belief in the work that we are doing, and their integrity in the job. So any teachers that you see, just give them a heartfelt thank from all of us in administration. And many parents who I've heard also recognize the incredible work that is being done. So thank you, teachers. School board members also a thankless job, but thank you all for being there and walking us through all this. Back to you, Elizabeth.
All right. I'm just going to read this slide to you. We have a few goals for our district, but they all boil down to one thing, or sort of one thing: cultivate a sense of belonging with and within community. Community. Cooperation between the two schools within the district and also across the supervisory union. Expand points of collaboration between the two communities. Community. Explore the middle school model. Strengthen a true sense of belonging for our vulnerable ages. Community. Our mental health and relationships, fully understand social and emotional needs of our students and staff, respond in whatever way possible, regardless of positionality. Community, pandemic versus endemic. Envision what we want to build and what we want to throw out and build over while we have a chance, and pause to reflect on the effects of both. And community, strengthen the bond between schools and communities, foster belonging all around us, collaborate with Windsor Justice, Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Committee, continue developing anti-racism policy and procedures implementation, explore existing equity deficits and barriers to true access, engage in the growth process, dig deeper into our environment, our sense of place and belonging through place-based and project-based learning, through Mount Ascutney itself and Ascutney Outdoors.
All right. So I assume that completes the additional information clarification for that article. So are there any comments or questions about Article 8? Okay. Having done that, then I'm going to go to Article 9. Article 9, to transact any other business which may properly come before the meeting. And are there any other elements, anything else that could properly come before the meeting? Are there any comments, questions? All right. Okay, hearing none. Don't I get to vote to adjourn the meeting, or wait, not close the meeting, but adjourn it until Tuesday,
Correct.
March
Correct.
20th.
Correct. March 1st at the polling places. Just encourage everybody to get out and vote. But thank you, Justin, for doing a good job moderating for us tonight, and Amy for taking minutes. We'll follow up with you, and for all of the board members and community members who attended. I see Elizabeth's hand.
Thank you. Can you please remind us of the hours of the polling places? The hours they'll be open?
Right. Amy, do you want to do that?
Sure. So both polling places in Windsor, that will be at the rec center at Town Hall. They will be open from 9 in the morning until 7 in the evening. And in West Windsor, it's at the, I'm sorry?
Story Memorial, yep.
Story Memorial Building. And it's the same time that the polls are open, from 9 in the morning until 7 in the evening.
Get out and vote. Thanks a lot again, Justin. And I'm going to stop recording. I don't think we need a formal motion to adjourn because we're not adjourning. We're actually just moving to the vote on Tuesday. So I'll stop recording now.